Wait. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Royal News Network, a Saturday morning live stream. Sorry, I was briefly muted. I hope you all had a fantastic and amazing 4th of July. I know not everybody celebrates that, but it is always good to reference it. I had a great day just with family and friends, so nothing too exciting. And I do want to apologize for being a little behind because just as I was about to go on, Miss Pippa wasn't feeling too hot all of a sudden. So I had to clean that up very quickly. And so we are, though, back on track. But sadly, that also means no Miss Pippa. She is relegated to the downstairs. So it's been, let's say, we have Catherine back in the royal news this week, going over and having a couple of engagements. And then we also have, of course, Meghan Markle's 4th of July stuff, which we will get into because, oh my gosh, she is the laziest social media influencer I think I've ever seen. She is so exceedingly lazy. It's actually quite insane. And then we also have, let's see here, we have William doing lots of various things regarding Earthshot Prize and Cornwall and everything like that. We have upcoming football tournaments in Switzerland for the women's teams of Europe. So we do know that Wales is playing the Netherlands. So that should be an interesting game. William, I think, is going for the Lionesses. I'd be curious if he'd go for Wales. So anyways, so exciting. And yes, Carol's like, right, 10,000 more to go until 200,000 subscribers. Yes, very, very exciting. So we will be talking about a lot of things. And it's just, I feel like because it's 4th of July, my brain is a little bit scrambled. And of course, Pippa getting sick also scrambled the brains. So we will hopefully have a very, very good case. And Christina asks, anything new on Marius? Not that I've seen, but I can definitely double check and see if there's any big additions here. So if you guys weren't here last week or anything, of course, Marius Borg-Holmby, son of the Crown Princess, is basically in severe legal trouble. There are 23 charges that have been decided by the police and that the prosecutor can pursue. So we will see where they go and see what happens with the family. And I mean, this has definitely had a bad impact on the Norwegian monarchy. And even though he's not a blood royal, he has no official royal function. He has been in the public eye since he was a baby. So, and he's been raised in the royal household. So yeah, it's you can't totally distance themselves from it. But we will get into all the shenaniganry, lots of confusing things about Meghan as well, and the wine and stuff like that. And so, through looking to the last channel with Alice says, did anyone in the US get to sleep before 3 a.m. due to fireworks and scared puppy? New Year's next year is 250 years. My puppy may not survive. Ms. Pippa is actually very good with the fireworks. We had to test that last night because we needed to go and do our number twos. And my neighbors were setting off fireworks and she would just kind of look at it and she'd hear it and look at it and then just, saunter along. I tried to even get her to go home and she's like, no, I want to keep going. Okie dokie. She is adorable. All right. So all those pleasantries out of the way. For some reason, it's like so hot in here today. I don't know why. But let's get into Meghan's 4th of July post. Oh my gosh. I looked at it and number one, I feel like she's like the hostess from hell. She is like overly does everything. And while the platter is beautiful and everything like that, again, I feel like she takes it a step too far always. And she's like, easy. And I'm like, how is that easy? That would take so much time. And where are your children? Where are your children? And what's really funny as well is if you haven't watched my previous video that I posted where it says, don't believe the hype when it comes to Meghan and, all her meandering businesses. I mean, a whole video can be made about how bad a year this has gone really, or how many missed opportunities or failures Meghan has had. But one of the things I pointed out is that there's no difference between As Ever, the brand, and Meghan Markle, the brand. They are synonymous. And you can actually see this reflected. And I told people, said in the video, you can actually see this reflected in the fact that she posts the same thing basically on both profiles multiple times to the point where you can get 4 different postings of the same thing. And it's like between stories and posts. And she did exactly that this week, guys. She did exactly that yesterday. And so I'm like, yeah. I was able to, I was like, oh my gosh, she did exactly what I said. So just as real quick of reference, because I didn't have a reference at the time that was strong. So here she is, an overhead shot making this whole platter thing. And then so she has a different video of herself making the same thing. And this one has the overview, which a camera was somewhere over here, and then front view of her. And then she does the cocktail thing. And trust me, we will get back to that. But if you go to as ever, she posts the same video. So we saw this in stories for her post, and then in her personal post, and then we get to this one. This posted again. So this is like 3 times, and then this is time number 4. She posts the same thing, ladies and gentlemen, endlessly. Endlessly. And it's one of those things where I find it so incredibly grating because she has all the resources in the world to make a lot of content all the time. And it's so easy anymore. You just really need your phone. There's so much, and I watch other people and people who have grown their following from nothing, who had nothing and grew into this amazing position within social media, and they're constantly moving with new ideas and new various things, and I just watch her and I go, you're posting the same thing, like of the same video thing that you did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you be this lazy? Because it's not impressive, it's lazy. Meghan Markle is the laziest content producer. She does 2 things for the 4th of July. I mean, technically one is the same thing filmed different ways, which I'm sure she gave to somebody to edit. Who knows even when that was done? And when it would make more sense to have more of a spontaneous post. Like that was a post you put on. Let's see when she actually posted this. It was 20 hours ago. So by this point, it's 10 a.m. here Eastern time. And so if you are an East Coast person, you might be halfway through your day by the time she posts this, and you don't have time to do this. This is something you post the day before the 4th of July. Like I always think, guys, and I mess up quite a bit, where I should post things like the day before and I only get to it the day of or the day after. And so it's just one of those things where I know I'm behind, but again, it's just me. Is if you look at true, really good content creators, is that they have everything designed and ready to post weeks, if not months in advance. So yeah, it's not, let's say the 4th of July when you film it, but it goes out the day before. Well, actually, it doesn't have to be the 4th of July when you film it. You can actually film it the day before or 3 days before or a week before, and nobody will really know. And it's a way for you to say, hey, do this. Because by the time Meghan Markle posted that, it was like 2:00 in the afternoon Eastern time. You might not have the chance if you see that charcuterie board gone crazy and you think to yourself, hey, I'd love to do that for your family. You have to go to the grocery store. You have to find those items. You have to find something that cuts in a star. I mean, where is she sharing, let's say, this little star punch that she has for the cheese? Why not share that? You could share it on her Shop My. She could, except for she's abandoned it. So none of this is really making a lot of sense. And it's just so incredibly lazy. It lacks an absolute level of creativity. And she says on there, this is easy 4th of July thing. And I'm like, for who? I mean, because if we watch this, and I saw a couple super chats and we'll get back there real quick. So if we watch it here, so she says, easy entertaining is this piece. And I'm sorry, but I don't feel like that's easy entertaining. That's not easy entertaining. And carefully placing the flowers. And they're not even her flower sprinkles. And that's a whole different caboodle we'll get to. You're putting these flowers on there, and it's like, so who's going to touch these? Because none of this looks like something children would enjoy. No, it's actually kind of funny. In one video, it almost seems like she totally forgot to actually put her own product in this board thing. She has one of her honeys there on the platform, or on the counter that you can see, but nothing else. So, yeah, so easy entertaining. I don't know about you. Tell me if you think that's easy. Now, she has her honey carefully placed there, which she doesn't use. But let me know. Do you guys think that that's easy entertaining? I honestly don't. I don't mind like creating something beautiful, but I think it's just ridiculous. And Anne says here, what's with the claps over the fruit tray? Don't know. I saw one thing here and I missed it. Oh yeah, Ritz says she does not entertain anyone but herself. Who is she kidding? Yeah, it's very strange. And there doesn't look like there's any children here. So like where are the kids running around? Because I was at the 4th of July thing yesterday and I don't have kids, but our hosts did. And there was another family there with their 5 children. And so there were actually 9 to 10 children there. And the kids would play around the whole time. And so there are no kids anywhere in this video or in the next one. And where she's showing off the mojitos. And I'm like, well, where are the children? Where are the children here? And it's just lacks any sense of, let's say, because she put such an emphasis on children, and it then looks like she's just hosting an adult party. And so I was like, oh, I guess the nannies, the moms get to have fun and the nannies get to watch the kids. That's the impression I got. But let's get to these 2 super chats here real quick. Cheryl T in Oklahoma said, isn't that the same shirt she wore to Wimbledon? Yes. And as somebody pointed out as well, Catherine wore a similar Ralph Lauren shirt earlier this week. And that shirt, when Meghan wore it at the time, was terrible. It still looks terrible. And it's not particularly flattering. So I would not suggest wearing that. But that's it. But yeah, Meghan referencing Wimbledon, where Catherine is at, or Catherine will be this week. And Diaz says, I have a feeling she's the type of person to spend hours putting together a food platter, and the minute her kids reach for the fruit piece, she gets mad because the platter is out of place. Yes. Okay. I had Diaz. This is great because I had this notion too when I was looking at Meghan's stuff. Is that it reminds me of when we went into like an antique store or something as kids, and my mom would tell us, okay, put your hands behind your back and hold them, because she didn't want us to like be touching things. Because obviously in antique stores, if you've ever been, sometimes there's a lot of breakable stuff. And so, we would walk around with them holding our hands behind our back, trying to be courteous and make sure we didn't damage anything. And that's what I feel like Meghan with the platter. It's so perfect. Like, would she want anybody to touch it? Because she seems to be so obsessed with the perfection, but part of life is not that level of perfection. Because to me, this fruit platter, and we'll start the video again, sorry, it strikes me as something you would get at a fancy schmancy hotel. And if you want to create that like every day for, your family, I mean, I guess you could, but does it matter to like perfectly place the flowers, or is it more important to actually be with your family? Like, how long did that really take her? And so it seems like, to me at least, somewhat a waste of time, because you're spending so much time on this, and it's all about the perfection of the image and not really about people actually consuming stuff or really wanting the platter. Again, you can create something that beautiful if you want to, but it strikes me as something that's designed for adults and not children. And there's nothing wrong with that, but 4th of July is honestly very much usually a time for like families and children. And it's rare to see somebody who's obviously that's not her thing. Like, that would be what I would anticipate to have is a house bustling with children and families, and looks like that's not what she's doing at all. And when you look at, obviously, let's go back to Meghan, because Meghan can only reference Meghan. And so if you actually watch here, and I'll put this up, sorry. And this is the fast track version of her actually creating this whole thing. And there's something actually really interesting here I want you to keep track of, is that she's creating this, placing everything so perfectly. I mean, you got to wonder how long this took her. And she's getting all the reds, and now we have to have the whites with the cheese, and the cheese is not even cut correctly to like make it work. And she puts little things there, and she has blue with blueberries. Okay, I think this was actually what was supposed to be the thing. And then all of a sudden, she's placing everything. So it's done, right? This is done. And then she realizes she forgot something. Her own product. Her own product she forgot. And what's also really interesting about this from a business perspective, and we'll get into it with the whole mojito thing as well, which is that her business is to sell her products. She's showing you a product you could not even buy the last round. Her raspberry spread hasn't been available since April. She didn't sell any of it in the last round. Where's your apricot spread, Meghan? You just sold apricot spread. Why not show people your apricot spread? Why are we showing people a raspberry spread they cannot buy? That you didn't put up again. There is so like you do. Let's say Goop and Gwyneth Paltrow. You do cross reference. Gwyneth posts quite a bit of content about Goop, but it is sort of her content and it's sort of unique. And sometimes it's a double with Goop, sometimes it's not. But with Meghan, there is literally no difference between what she posts between the two platforms, and she hasn't created enough of an independent identity for As Ever. Like, I don't even know why the As Ever account exists. She should just have it be Meghan and sell it that way. And for you to have a product that you aren't ever seen using, like, why would you buy anything from her? She doesn't use any of her own products. Where's the apricots? You just sold apricot spread. You should be selling apricots. Like, this is business 101. The cutting board isn't hers or whatever. Like, none of this is hers except for the raspberry spread. And you can do that, I guess, if you want to, but to run a truly successful business, she needs to actually be doing, you could say, sort of all things at once. You need to be able to post yourself, but also post for the company. So, like, again, a good example would be, let's say, Goop. So here's Goop. I mean, the vacation shop, that is Gwyneth, but it's a lot of different things here, a very clear aesthetic, I would say. I mean, Gwyneth features quite a bit, but this strikes me as clean. This strikes me as, like they're promoting the products. And so they have different pictures of people on there. And so you might not like everything Goop does, but you can see where the Goop thing kind of sort of works. And then we have, let's say, Gwyneth Paltrow. Which is here. So there's some commonalities. I'm sure this is from Goop or Goop podcast, but it's a very different aesthetic. So yes, this was on both, but she has a different aesthetic overall. Some crossover, of course, but you get the sense of somebody who has a different identity to a certain extent than her company. And she does different things per week, like the boyfriend breakfast that she does. And then she makes, personal posts about her family and those sorts of things. So she cross-references quite a bit, but I feel like Meghan's constant problem right now is that she really, really does need to do that. Like, she really does need to set up As Ever as a separate identity, because at this point it's just always referencing Meghan and it's never actually promoting the products. That's what's startling, really, is that she never promotes her own products. So on the As Ever Instagram, we do have the wine here, but she is grabbing apricots, but that's it. I mean, how are we supposed to get her brand from that? She didn't even sell, those are pancakes, not crepes. So she didn't even sell pancakes. And is that supposed to be syrup or honey? Like, she says, I think, sweet things away, but why would you put honey on a stack of pancakes? That's kind of weird. Like her running on the beach. And then she posts a bunch about strawberries and has yet to sell any strawberries. Like, none of the brand actually references itself. It actually makes sense. I mean, again, washing blueberries, how is that supposed to be all that good? But like, perhaps the greatest sin, you could say, from a branding, business, marketing perspective here for Meghan is how she did the mojitos. So, because this is, I feel like, such bad form. especially for people she is like essentially I would argue forcing to pay $120 for her products. So she says July 4th of July cocktail hour, muddle raspberries, add ice, gin and tonic, or your spritz of your choosing. Top with blueberries, garnish with mint. Cheers with the ones you love. And so we're getting the raspberries and smiling because apparently she's obsessed with raspberries, doesn't care about apricots though. But she wants you to buy apricot spread. Okie dokie. I feel like none of this is too exciting at all. You guys will have to tell me. And I feel like too her pinky ring got an upgrade. Because it's all about, the diamonds with Meghan. Oh, perfectly, So if you don't, in order to make this, in order to copy Meghan, need to go get straws, need to get those right glasses or whatever. And then you also need a garden, fresh garden you can go out to and grab mints. Okay, so number one, you'll notice no children, nobody but her friend. Nobody but her friend. So her and her friend are getting smashed on 4th of July, apparently, without husbands or children. All right, awesome. But you could say from a business perspective, the bigger sin here is, what about her rosé wine? Why wouldn't she take this opportunity to show off what you can do with her wine? Why wouldn't you do that? Instead, you have a gin and tonic recipe. You're not selling gin. You're not selling tonic. She's not selling anything that she actually put into that drink. And it's goes back to a bit of that laziness thing where she's not actually figuring out interesting things to do with her own products. But also, it's almost in a way somewhat offensive because it's like she's going out of her way to not use any of her stuff. And so if you are somebody who's invested, let's say, a couple $100 in Meghan Markle stuff, and she never uses any of it, she's basically telling you it's too good for her, but she's more than willing for the peasants to buy it to make her money. You have to, if you truly believe in your products, that's why Gwyneth's stuff works. If you truly believe in it, you have to use it. You can't use something else. Meghan could do this further down the line, or she could do this on the day, but she should have been showing a bunch of ways to utilize her rosé. How to use your rosé in the hot sun, how to use your rosé to, cool you down, how to create an interesting rosé situation or whatever. I don't know enough about wines, guys, so I can't really tell you, but I'm sure there is a way to have this kind of content. Yeah, but you also have to show yourself using it. The absurdness of her like avoiding it makes me think she also thinks her stuff is crap, which is why she doesn't use it. Meghan Markle thinks beyond the raspberry spread, because that's the only thing she's ever really featured. She thinks the rest of her stuff is crap. She doesn't want to use it. She doesn't want to buy it. Even when she could have added her flower sprinkles to her little fruit platter, she actually did different flowers. She did not use her own flower sprinkles that she made you pay $15 for. I mean, as a consumer, think about that. Like I want to see somebody, yes, like let's say Lisa Eldridge. She's a makeup artist. I mentioned her before. She, yes, uses a lot of her own products that she created, but she'll use other ones too. But she uses hers a ton. Hers are the ones she relies on the most. And so I like that because, she likes her products, so she uses them. It would be like her creating a whole line of makeup products because that's what she does. She's a professional makeup artist. And then she never uses them. That would tell me she thinks they're crap because she won't put them in her own palette or her own like makeup kit. So she doesn't use them. And so it's like, Meghan, you never see her use her own stuff. And the longer that goes on, the more it kind of comes to the forefront, at least in my mind, is that she doesn't like any of her own products, guys. I don't think Meghan likes a single product she offers, except for maybe the raspberry spread, and that's it. She doesn't use any of it. So you can almost guarantee she doesn't like it. And that's wild to me that you're spending so much on something that you're not going to wear, you don't use, you don't buy. I mean, and showing off a product you're not selling. You should be able to sell something and be willing to show yourself using all of it. Like, the only thing that was in that video that we saw that she actually made and is forcing people to buy, or not forcing people, but offering people to buy, is the honey and the spread. A spread that wasn't available last round, and I'm not even sure which honey it was. I don't know if we can tell. So it is the orange blossom honey, I think. But yeah, I think it's the orange blossom. So it's nice, her microscopic bottles she makes you pay 28 bucks for. Although I have found out that Flamingo Estates offers honey that costs like $100. So Megan's comes off as cheap. But I also think overall, most of her stuff is cheap slop. And that's why she's doesn't really care about it. Doesn't really want to show you how to use it. It's because she doesn't use any of it and it doesn't fit into what she does on a daily basis. Because if I was, let's say, great example, guys. I'm a hot chocolate connoisseur. I love hot chocolate. And I love cold chocolate, chilled chocolate. If you can get it, Canopes in London or anywhere else in the UK, very worthwhile to go there. You can get different degrees of hot chocolate. And so, like, 32% of chocolate, you can go darker chocolate and can get it iced or hot, or even some offer milkshakes. So if you're ever interested, go out and get some of that. But like, when it comes to hot chocolate, it would be like I'm telling you I'm a hot chocolate connoisseur, but I only drink tea. Well, that would tell you I'm really more into tea. I'm not into hot chocolate, but I'm like selling you hot chocolate, but I'm drinking tea. So it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect at all, because you should be able to, again, and this is business 101. If you are somebody who wants to, let's say, sell, let's say you create hair scrunchies or something and you want to sell them, wear them. That's number one, the best way to sell. But number two, it's like, it helps you as a person who's running the company to find the flaws when you're using the product yourself. If you're using the hair ties, if you're using the headband, if you're using this or that, you can have a better kind of grasp on your product as the person running it. If you are constantly using it, constantly trying to figure out new ways to kind of manage those things, that is, I think, absolutely key. So if you're going to start a business, you have to almost live your business in order to make it better in many ways as well. So I'm bad, guys. Technically, I should watch my old videos later. I should watch them more. Like, I should do different things in order to, like, make things better. I just work too fast to really have that kind of notion to sit down and, like, rewatch all the content. I can't imagine rewatching all my content. I mean, number one, it would make me cringe. But number two, it would be very, very time consuming. And I'm like constantly trying to move quickly. But what I do a lot, and I've actually been working on this and processing this week. Like, there'll be some changes coming in the fall, because I'm constantly trying to figure out, okay, where's the sweet spot with something? What's working, what's not working, and what kind of can we figure out a massage to make something better? And what is not, like, I've been trying to do more short like form content. I didn't do one on Friday or Thursday, and I should have, but like, the video short style, like 1 to 3 minutes, because that's very popular and I enjoyed those too. So how do I work those into what I do? Like, I've been trying to be on TikTok, but some of it's not working. And so I'm like, is it my style? Is it the content? Because it used to go really, really kind of crazy, some of the stuff on TikTok, but now it's not doing that. So it's like, is there too many competitors? If it's not, again, all these things you should think about all the time. And Megan doesn't think about any of this. I think it's an example of the fact, I mean, you're very nice. You say, because you're not a con, Brittany, and it's right. And also, it's Megan is. I think Megan's a total con. She's not, doesn't like any of this stuff. Remember, guys, she started out with strawberry jam, and that's not what she sold. I don't think she cares about any of it. Who like, do we even know if her quote unquote raspberry spread is really what's in there? It could be strawberry jam she made earlier this week that she actually really likes. And why, again, is she teasing a product? And so she's showing off a product. And if you're thinking they're going, man, I want that, but you can't buy it anywhere, what's the point? And Lynn says, well, you also take feedback from your viewers. Yes, I don't think Megan does take any feedback. and it's sort of getting a little crazy. And yeah, Ritz is like, yes, she does reject criticism and keeps making a massive fool of herself. Her attempt to keep attention no matter what. How bad it is sad. It is. It is. So she's not, I don't think, moving. And that's why this business will fail. This business will 150% fail because she doesn't care about any of her own products. And unless she happens upon something that is massive, she'll never be successful, to be quite honest. I don't think for a second she will be successful in this because she obviously doesn't care. And that just seems very surprising to me. You're investing a lot of time, money, like her reputation. If she walks away from as ever, especially after all the blunders leading up to the launch and after the launch, to be quite honest, I think her future business prospects are mostly dead at that point because she's had so much time and she has yet to really find something she loves. And she's talking about hostessing and how she wants to be like, well, she actually hasn't said this, but she wants to focus more on hosting content, and that's not what she's posting. And if you don't want to be that, then it won't go anywhere. Yeah. Sally says, "Where's the bread, crackers, different cheeses, nuts, dried fruit? Way too much fruit." Yeah, a lot of red fruit. Yeah, she didn't really kind of balance it out easier. And so we do have, let's see, 2 super chats here that I haven't gotten to yet. Diz fan says, "Good morning, Brittany. What are your thoughts on the decommissioning of the Royal Train? I feel like we are having our own Britannia moment." So this is, yes, an interesting question because the retiring of the Royal Train, it just makes sense. They were explaining in one of the Telegraph articles, the Time articles or something, that a single trip can cost upwards of $50,000 to $60,000 or it's 50 to 60,000 pounds. And it's actually better for them to go by helicopter. And it does worry me because helicopter is much less safe, but I can understand how trains, I mean, there's a lot of train connections in Europe and why I love traveling around, especially because I travel with usually a big suitcase, especially if I'm there for several weeks and I have like a camera bag and stuff. So I like just taking trains because I don't have to go through the airport and airport security, and which I hate. And it's much easier to get on and off trains. But anyways, when it comes to the this being but like the Britannia, I mean, I don't think anybody's mourning over the train really. Like I can understand from like a bygone era, it's sort of sad to see it go away. But William takes trains, but he just takes the normal mass transit trains. And I've taken those trains in the UK, and they work really well generally. Yes, sometimes they can be delayed, but it's much more economical for him to take a regular train that goes to the same location rather than taking, like, maybe for himself and Catherine or maybe even the kids. Like, I mean, it would actually be kind of cool to do like one last big tour with the train and the family. So like have the kids get on and they go like all over the UK on the train. And it does help that the royals can stay on the train so they can sleep overnight there. They don't have to get different accommodations and stuff. So that's kind of nice, but I can understand as well, while this is sort of a relic of a bygone era, hate to say it, but there's so many other ways to travel. Helicopters do worry me, but I don't think people have as much of an attachment to the train as they did probably the Britannia and especially Queen Elizabeth. I think the Queen Elizabeth's emotions attached to Britannia were sort of the big thing. And she was sort of the last proponent of the train, and they just don't use it that much. And so it just makes total and complete sense to let it be part of a museum piece or a traveling, let's say, dinner and show type thing. Something like that makes 100% sense in my opinion. And you also asked, was it actually John Major's idea to get rid of the yacht, or was it the UK government? What does it say about the direction the Royals are going in? So I don't remember which is which, although I will say when it comes to the yacht, like in Denmark and in Norway, they have royal yachts that they still take out. The Damborg in Denmark and the Norge, I think it is, in Norway. But there is such, I mean, it's true in the UK too. But because of how especially the Scandinavian countries are set up, particularly like Denmark with a lot of islands and stuff like that, and you think all the way back to the Vikings, which they all descend from, boats have sort of a critical aspect of their history and heritage. I think almost in some ways more so than the UK, although the UK's is obviously very high as well. And so it's kind of weird that the royals did get rid of it because, obviously it still runs in Denmark and Norway. But I also understand it from a money perspective. So the royals have to walk this very fine line where they have to represent their people, which means yes, you do cover transportation costs, helicopters, planes, cars, trains, those sorts of things. But you also can't be too ostentatious. Now, I don't know actually the details of why they got rid of the Royal Yacht Britannia. I don't actually know. But when it comes to like cost and benefit, what are the costs? What are the benefits? These are things that have to be evaluated every single year. And a monarchy, and you could say this as quote unquote a business, because it partly is that. It makes sense to get rid of things that are a drain on the system, that aren't used very often, that are expensive to maintain or what have you, and go with a better option. And I think the train is one of those. I think the Royal Yacht Britannia was probably one of those too. And you just have to be judicial in how you do these things. Now, when it comes to Denmark, the Danes take the yacht out quite a bit. They go to Sweden, they'll go to Norway, and they actually go on the not actually always. Usually the boat goes and they fly. Not all the time, but at least sometimes that's the case. But it gives them a place to stay as well. And I mean, it's kind of cool. I've seen the Norge and then the Damborg because they were there for Carl Gustaf's Golden Jubilee. Hopefully, they'll be there next year for his 80th birthday. I'm already planning a trip that there will be a RNN trip, so with followers. And so, if you guys are interested in that, there'll be one coming up offering, and it'll be mid-April, and then Carl Gustaf's 80th birthday. And so, I think both of the ships will be there then. That would be my guess. And so it just is something that makes sense. You have to be judicial in your spending. You can't be too indulgent because you have to walk that fine line of stating and making sure you have the accoutrements you need to function as a monarchy, but also eliminating waste. It's just like any business, any government. Eliminate waste where you can and save money so you can put it towards other things. And also, you have the public perception to think of as well. How do you make sure the public believes you're a good bang for your buck? You have to think of these things. And a representative within the monarchy has to be aware of these because you cannot look like you're being frivolous. Because you could, I guess, just not talk about the royal train again and just put it in a rail yard somewhere. But you also need to say, hey, like what would be cool to see is how they take this train and go, hey, we're going to do this with the train and get people excited. That's the way to go. So those are my thoughts there. I hope that makes a little bit of sense and really kind of explains things. But yeah. And Gretchen says, Gretchen the first. I always call you Gretchen the first. I love it. Today, do they need their own train? Didn't William and Catherine recently travel on commercial train? Yeah. The trains are so much easier to run and like a train that's already on schedule to go to that particular place. I mean, it just makes more sense to jump on there. It doesn't make much sense to have, oh, we need a separate train. And there's also a difference too in the royals' perception of themselves and how they want to be seen. Because yes, they need to be separate, but they also don't want to be so removed that they look exceedingly out of touch. Because what you could look like if you're insisting, oh, I have to travel by private train and nothing else, is it makes it look like you don't want to be with your people. And that's a bad move too. You like Queen Mary of the UK, who we love because she was our tiara queen and she gave us all the best tiaras in the collection. She had a fantastic taste in jewelry. And there was an event, and I remember reading this, where she was supposed to go to a hospital, but the red carpet didn't go down far enough. So she just got to the end, looked at it, and walked back because she couldn't walk anymore if she wasn't walking on a red carpet. You don't want that look of royals. That look of royals is dead, and you don't want to resurrect it. Honestly, Harry and Meghan look more like, and I know some of you also are mentioning in the chat, Harry and Meghan look more like Queen Mary than the regular royals do, because Catherine and William are more likely, because Meghan and Harry just want to fly private all the time because they don't want to mess with the peasants, those grubby peasants. They don't want them to be sharing the same airspace. So again, this makes sense. And um, Chelia says as well, John Major decommissioned the royal yacht, but Tony Blair would not allow a replacement. Again, which I feel like makes sense. And Deborah says Rebecca English said the train needs upgrading and would have been expensive. Exactly. If you need to upgrade it and those expensive run over costs, it's just probably not worth it, to be quite honest. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay to move on to something different. And the modes of transportation are different. Yes. Are trains still utilized all over the UK and Europe? Yes, quite a bit. So William and Catherine can get anywhere on a train, I'm sure. And if they need, let's say, a shorter commute or something like that, they can take a helicopter. Now, I do hesitate because helicopters don't, in some ways, have a great safety record. So it's really critical that not the whole family is on the helicopter. I think that's really, really key anymore. But do I understand them utilizing helicopters to get from point A to point B? Yes. And also, as well, it's actually probably it's actually pretty cost effective according to what we heard. It's like much less than the train. And not to mention the fact is that you don't have to deal with traffic jams, getting the number of police officers to escort them and all these sorts of things. So it might actually be somewhat a cost saving measure because you're not spending hours, driving or something to that effect. So anyways, we shall see what they do with the train, but I actually think a tour with the kids on the train would have been awesome. It would have been so awesome. I It's just been so great. Susan says tradition is still needed. It is, but you do have to kind of update with the times too. And tradition is you have to is it really that much of a good tradition to like have the train as a train the end all be all? No, but is a tradition, let's say, having the Order of the Garter ceremony. If you weigh the cost of that, it's like Order of the Garter is way higher and then the train's lower. It's to me a much lower level of tradition that needs to be kept. Like when I look at, because I'd love to buy an old house and redo it one day, what I look for houses is something where it's sort of a diamond in the rough. You can see fantastic woodwork and everything, but maybe it's in a town that's dying, or maybe it's been neglected over the years. That's what I look for. Like if I see a house that's quote unquote old but has zero interesting characteristics, I don't care because to me, if it doesn't have something unique about it, there's no reason to save it. To be quite honest, that's kind of where I go. So I hope that helps. And yeah, Ella says King Philippe and Queen Matilda traveled to the UK via France with regular Eurostar trains, even for the state visit. Yeah, that's fantastic. The train is like you can get I'm sure they maybe have to book out a car, but the Eurostar's fast. It's effective. Like I've taken the Eurostar quite a bit. I like taking the Eurostar again. I do that because the big bags and because because I travel guys with a decent amount of camera gear. And what I hate is that every airport in Europe is different. Like I kind of wish Europe had a bit like an American system where it's like it was universal across the line what everybody would do for like airport security. Because sometimes when I go through an airport, and this happened in France. So I think I'm going through France for our south of France trip this year, or Paris. And so I'll have to let them know. They're like wanted me to take all my camera stuff out, all my electronic stuff out. And guys, for me, that's a lot of crap. And it's nerve-wracking to take some of this stuff out and like have it in like 8 bins and going, okay, I hope nobody swipes anything while I'm trying to manage and watch and hopefully I don't leave anything. I actually almost left my cell phone somewhere last time. Gosh, I can't remember if I was in London or where I was traveling going through security and I'd like just kind of put my phone in and I forgot to grab it out of a bin real quick. And I just happened to remember and I like ran over there. I'm like, oh, thank goodness I got my phone. But anyways, I like taking the trains. I've taken the Eurostar several times and it's one of I'm kind of bummed there's no Eurostar between Luxembourg and Paris. A little bummed about that. So I'll have to take a regular train or I can fly. But again, I really like taking the trains, although it takes much longer and you can get delayed, just saying. But it's very much an awesome, awesome way to get about. So that would be my recommendation. Now, I do want to get back to really quickly, not for too long here. This Megan mojito, I guess I don't know if it's mojito, her cocktail. And I'm curious if somebody knows this cocktail recipe from somewhere else because I bet you she stole it from somebody else. But the image here, I just wanted to focus on real quick because this is a woman who, just showed us her birthing video and her what else does she show us? Her kids and her going to Disneyland and stuff like that. And then she's partying with her friend, supposedly, you could argue, on 4th of July, and there's no kids and there's no husbands. It just strikes me as very out of touch in some ways. And also, like, she doesn't really care about her children that much. Now, I'm probably reading too far into it, and I will 100% admit that. But what we have with Megan, I think constantly, which again, I sort of find fascinating from a business marketing perspective, is such a lack of identity. I mean, I think this is the true Meghan Markle here. The true Meghan Markle is a woman who wants to sip cocktails with her friends on her back porch. She doesn't really want to be hanging around with her children all that much. That is my personal opinion, and I'm entitled to it. But I feel like she reinforces this message sometimes. And I feel like we're supposed to be, I guess, engaged with this and be so excited. And this would be wonderful if you were a content creator who had no kids, who just hung out with your friends and drank on 4th of July. Like this piece would make sense. But she's creating this ridiculous fruit and cheese platter, I guess, for just her and her friend, drinking a cocktail, and sans kids and sans husbands. It's just the girls. This is not the holiday for that. There are other holidays where I think this would be perfectly fine, but I don't think it's very much a good look for a self-proclaimed, obsessive mom, you could argue. And her friend doesn't look all that great either here. Of course, I just don't know why they're cheering us. Cheers. Cheers. Because other people are watching our children, or the nannies are out there somewhere actually watching the kids, and we are not. We get to sip cocktails. And again, I kind of go back to, and it's as Anne says here, which is so true. The 4th is a family holiday with barbecue, husbands, and kids. 150%. Like, I thought when she initially posted her story that the cocktail, this was before she showed how she made it, which was like, there's nothing to that, is that she was making it for Harry. But no, Harry's not there. She's literally making 2 cocktails, one for herself and one for her friends, because one for her friend, because they're apparently the only ones celebrating 4th of July. And this goes back to the idea of this would have been good to post the day before the 4th of July or 2 days before the 4th of July. Here, like, let me explain to you a great cocktail. And she should have been explaining it in the video rather than just showing herself making it. And it goes back to this idea that she's just very lazy as a content creator. She doesn't really spend the time to like connect with the audience. Because one of the things is, and this is, I think, becoming more and more true as kind of social media goes on and everything, is that it really is the connection between the creator and the audience that matters. And so how do you kind of bridge that gap? Because I almost kind of probably overdo it to a certain extent on camera. I like project my voice more, and I know some people complain about that and different things, but part of it is just this notion of I'm trying to almost overdo it because the flatness of a screen means there's less like person, in some ways, less things that come through. So you almost have to overdo it to kind of, you have to over exude just because it's like you're on camera and stuff like that. That's kind of part of being, somebody who operates this way. And so it makes sense to me, but it's like Megan just doesn't do it. I have no connection to her as a person through her content at all. And you can see this reflected in how her Instagram following is not moving again. Like, she's almost to 4 million, barely. But once that baby mom video, which was 4 weeks ago now, since then she's cratered again in growth because she doesn't connect. Like, that video for some people did connect. And so it's like, if that connected with you, I mean, I can't account for taste, but whatever. But when it comes to, like, connecting with an audience, she can't do it. This is why she's not growing. She's not connecting with an audience. It's so easy to see, and she could work better on it. She needs to talk to the camera and not just cut off the top of her head all the time. Like, do what everybody does. So, I have this short little tripod here that I found recently going through as I was trying to organize my stuff. And so this would be something where, like, if you're in a kitchen, set this thing up on the counter, put the phone, there's a phone thing you can put in here to hold your phone, and put that on the counter and talk to the camera. That's what so many people do, is just set up little tripods around and talk to the camera. I even did that yesterday. So if you guys remember, you saw me do like a little I'll try to do this more as I think of them, but I just had something happen yesterday and I was like super stoked about it. And so I was like, I'll just put the camera on me. And I probably had too much white space in the top, but like my whole face was visible. Just seems really weird that she just doesn't seem to want to. She always is putting this sort of glass and this separation between herself and the audience. But in the future, that's not how content creation is going in a lot of ways. And so she's, of course, wildly behind the times. I love the royal, it's a royal tea. Um, and this is just it's not royal daily tea, but it's UK royalty. And they, she posted something that was like so brilliant this week, and it was so true. And she said, "I'm honestly impressed with Meghan's commitment to being stuck in 2016. Meghan is just wildly behind the times when it comes to all of this. She half does it." Alina says here, you're right. She just half does everything. And it's so incredibly apparent. I'm just always shocked by the people who are so impressed with her. And I'm like, really? You've never watched like anybody else like do anything on social media ever? She's so boring. She's so boring. And the fascinating thing is in some ways how boring she is and how terrible she is at it. And we do have one more post to go over today. And this was the only post where we saw the kids. So this was probably for the 4th of July. Again, this goes back to Meghan should have showed her 4th of July like preparation suggestions before the 4th of July and not on the day, like halfway through the day, East Coast time, because by then everybody's done most of what they're going to do. They're not going to drag, their kids back to the grocery store for just fruit. I mean, there's some crazies that'll do that, but most people are not doing that. Anyways, she also shared this with the cupcakes. So there's obviously kid cupcakes and adult cupcakes. And you notice as well, these are not like super well done. So for the someone that claims to be so invested in making things look perfect, like, this was obviously something maybe the friends brought or something. I don't know, but these look terrible. Anyways, it says our second date was the 4th of July, 2016. And H, because she can't call him by his real name, brought me cupcakes to celebrate. Now all these years later, it's only been 9, Meghan Markle, 9 years where Harry has seen his popularity crater into oblivion because of you. And your lives have been effectively ruined in many ways because you needed to be famous and rich. Our 2 children are in on the tradition. Oh, great. You get cupcakes. Happy Independence Day. May your day be as sweet as these cupcakes, which I imagine like these were something maybe the nanny actually made because Meghan wouldn't. I don't know. It's kind of weird because you see 2. It's hard to tell what is what here. Think that's a kid. That might be a kid. We got hands. It's kind of creepy. And where she's faking the love to the dim man who she could take for a ride. And then I guess he brought her a cupcake. Happy 4th of July. 4th of July. Oh, that looks terrible. Oh, that looks honestly very terrible. Although I think I actually know what shop this is, guys. I think I know. And oh man. So because I actually do go here and get cupcakes in when I'm in London from this place. American Cupcakes in London. It's a Hummingbird Bakery, guys. That is actually where he got it. So I do like their cupcakes there if you're in London. There's one actually by Buckingham Palace. So let me show you here real quick. So there is the hummingbird logo, and then you could see it on his thing here as well. So anyways, if you're ever curious in London, this is the cupcake place. Although it looks like they got his got damaged in transit, I guess you could say. But awesome. You got cupcakes and continue the tradition. It's like, it's cute, it's sweet, it's whatever. But Megan kind of shared, I guess, yet again, like not there's just nothing there. There's just no there to connect with her at all. And she might be wildly successful in the future. She might not. But yeah. Ritz and Moody said, which I think is Cassie. I saw you say earlier, Fourth of July cupcake in London. Yeah. And like, did she even eat that? She doesn't strike me as much of a sweet tooth. I don't know if she even ate that. So we shall see. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we have wrapped up most of that. I mean, obviously, there's still a huge question about what will happen with the wine and all the sort of chaos with the apricot spread. And I think Royal Daily Tea was mentioning that she ordered the apricot spread and then she was told she wasn't going to get some. She was going to get a refund, but they weren't going to refund her like shipping costs or something like that. And then they did change that. So the as ever stuff is not been handled well, especially I feel like this second launch. Like the first launch is where I gave her some grace with the first launch, because the first launch is a time you get to test things, you find out what it works, what doesn't. But by the second launch, some of those kinks should have been worked out, and this seems like worse than last time. And this just, again, doesn't bode well for the future for her and this business going forwards, not to mention the fact, again, that I don't think she likes any of her products. I don't think she cares for any of them at all, and you have the recipe for disaster. This business will fold. I almost like would tell people to like bookmark it. It is like, this business will fold. She'll get bored with it. It won't be making money. She's still not updating as far as I can tell, which again, I find super interesting. Nobody's picked up on this. She has completely abandoned her Shop My, which I just find really fascinating. It's like, why would you abandon it? Because not everything works the way you want it to all the time, but you have to put in some decent amount of effort sometimes to get things moving. And maybe that would require her, which I guess she's not willing to do, which is to like do both like high and low. She claims to do high and low, but she doesn't actually do it. And so nobody wants to buy her stuff because they're like, oh, that's, you're paying $300 for a white sweater. That's just not that exciting. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy, the whole thing going on. But I think that she's already abandoned what could have been actually a very lucrative track for her, is just indicative of how she just doesn't want to focus on anything. And she's just kind of moving along and hoping like things work out. It's like, but you should really be working harder. Should really be working harder here, because it's not the title. The title will help, of course, but the title is not the end all be all. And it can't help you if you don't know how to, if you're not working yourself. You have to be working yourself as part of it. Otherwise, it just won't work at the end of the day. It just won't. At some point, it will just collapse because you didn't care enough to. You didn't work hard enough. And those are things that we'll probably see. Princess Goose says she already works too hard, or so she says. Chella says, do any of us see a change with her new PR team? I don't know, because it never was about the PR team. It was, in some ways, just about getting somebody who would agree with her, because I think she was getting pushback from the baby mama video going, is that really what you want to do? And she was like, yes, yes. And the people who encouraged it. But like, was the shot to her dignity worth it? I don't think so. Was the shot to her public reputation worth it? I don't think so. So it's just one of those things where she just wants yes people, and she wants people who, she feels like helped her. But I mean, I doubt, again, most likely the baby mama post was her idea, and she wanted to do it, and some people encouraged it, and some people tried to, let's say, "No, maybe that's not such a good idea." And what did she do? Immediately let the go of the people who said no. And she just wants people who tell her yes. Yeah, that's great. That looks awesome. And you got to wonder too, when it comes to her rosé, does she get actually real feedback on the wine? Does she get real feedback on the taste, or did people just tell her all the time and just go, she's like, I sense too much apricot in here or something stupid. I don't know. I'm just making something up. And that people go, yes, I feel the same way. Like I would imagine she'd ask almost not meaning to, but sort of rhetorical questions, and people would just agree with her assessment already. And so because of that, I just seriously wonder how much good advice and feedback did she get for these wines? Because again, all her friends are fair weather friends, and they just, I'm sure, just agreed with her. And so it probably is her creation in some ways, because she was the one who kind of got the final blend. But it's kind of like, you might have all these friends, but nobody tells you there's lettuce in your teeth. And so she might get to the end and it comes out. And again, she required you, because I got the wine, and it was $120 between the wine itself, which she made you buy 3 bottles of, and shipping and tax. $120. Now, granted, I can write this off on my taxes and I don't mind doing that. But I imagine that if you are a fan-ish, or maybe a fair weather fan of Megan's, and you just really wanted to try a new rosé, and you were forced to buy 3 bottles of it. Number one, those fair weather people probably immediately checked out when they saw the price. They're like, "Oh no, I'm not paying $100 for wine I never tasted." But those who did, even maybe the fervent fans, like if you get the wine and you try it and you don't like it, then you're stuck with 2 more bottles of it. And so what are you gonna do with those other 2 bottles? They're gonna be like the gift you give out to friends, at white elephant parties, to get rid of it. It's it's such a bad Carol said eBay, and I did look this up because there are stipulations on eBay. So you have to be like an approved seller to sell alcohol, if you didn't know. So I actually looked, because I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try the one, but I'm gonna sell the other two. Then it's gonna be kind of hard to sell. And it's like, yeah, Francisco says, give the 2 bottles to your enemies. Yeah, probably. Cause it's like, what else are you supposed to do with them? And it was such a risk for her in a business to actually force people to buy these 3 bottles. Cause then she could say she moved significant quantities, but she forced people to buy at least 3. So what if you're like a crazy fan and bought $300 worth of her wine? You have 12 of them and you try it and you hate it. Like, I guess you're just gonna drink it out of spite just because you spent all the money, or you just gonna start to come to resent her. I just find it insane that she made people buy so much with an entirely untested product. Like, if you are a very successful winery or wine person at that point, and you sell 3, like, I would imagine people go, "Yeah, like I trust their taste buds, I trust their vintage, and that's what I go with." It's actually it was interesting. I was hearing some guys talk about, when it comes to movie reviews, is you find the person whose views kind of align with yourself, and then you kind of base your movie going or television going experience based on those people's reactions, because you trust their perception of, or you trust their viewpoints. But kind of when you think about wine, it could be kind of the same thing. Like, if you trust this wine person, if you've actually gone through and had a lot of their suggestions and found them all to be very good, you'd be willing to invest in 3 that you haven't tasted yet, but they say, "Oh, this is the best." And you go, "Yeah." But Megan's totally wildly untested here, and this could be great or it could be awful. Because I would not be surprised if some of her friends told her something was great when it really wasn't. I would not be surprised. All right, we do have to stand with this super chat. Says, can we please talk about how she released the wine on her deceased mother-in-law's birthday? The way she used dead family members is beyond me. Yeah, so we should talk about this 100%. I so kind of forgot to discuss this, but yeah. So Diana was born on obviously July 1st, 1961. And died August 31st, 1997. And she died in a drunk driving accident. So the man behind the wheel was hammered and drove them into a kind of divider in Paris and killed 3 of the 4 passengers. And of course, Harry has blamed this on the paparazzi numerous times, but it was a drunk driver. And so imagine your wife is selling wine and decides to debut it on your mother's birthday. Like, I imagine William is incensed. Like, he would probably be absolutely incensed by this idea that Meghan would launch an alcohol product on on his mother's birthday after she died in a drunk driving accident. Like, the callousness, the lack of thought and forethought, and like so many different things. I'm like, seriously now? Seriously? You could not figure out like a different day? Because the crazy thing is, guys, it's not even shipping until July 9th. So why not launch it on July 2nd? I mean, I understand. So here's the thing I think happened. And this would not be surprised me because again, this program is being run out of its butt. There is this company is kind of, I think, I mean, I can attest somewhat. Like, I feel like I'm constantly like trying to catch up, and I feel like that's what As Ever is doing too. No, I do that because obviously I'm news, so like there's always things going on, always things to catch up on, and everything. But when it comes to As Ever, because it was not a well planned out or thought out company, they're constantly playing catch up. So if this rosé wine was supposed to be around for the quote unquote summer, well, they're a week or two past when summer officially begins. They should have gotten this product out probably in late May. Is technically when this product should have been released. Is late May. But you're almost hitting, the summer season now is you could say in full swing, but it still feels like at least somewhat if you get halfway through July by the time you get this rosé. So the rosé is supposed to ship out on the 9th. What if you don't get it until the 15th? Well, that's halfway through summer. Summer's half gone. Summer's half gone by that point. So because you only have half of July and then August left. Why wouldn't you get this out in June? That way you could actually enjoy the rosé for the entire period of the summer. You could have a bottle a month, let's say. That's a little bit like that probably is too short. I don't know how many glasses you get, but you could space it out. But I think again, she did not plan this out well. And so she's basically already missing the summer season. And so she has to catch up and do this now. And it's amazing how little foresight went into this. And that's why I think all the products so far have been middling to bad, is because there has not been much thought. There has not been much planning. And this is basically like, we have to get something out. We have to get something out of here. And it's what she could get out. And because they even said it, this was the crazy thing in the Newsweek piece. Because somebody mentioned actually on comments on YouTube, they're like, well, she sold rosé, not sparkling. But no, in the Newsweek piece, they said, well, we're hoping to get a sparkling wine out before the end of summer. So it'll be months, not weeks. I was like, shouldn't it be weeks, not months? Because by the time the initial batch sells and gets out, it'll be halfway through summer. So are you going to get it like August 15th? Like the next batch going to come out August 15th or August 31st or something like that? It just doesn't make a ton of sense. And I do think, because everybody wants to make connections to the date. And of course, I think this is one case where 100% Meghan knew what the date was and didn't really care. Meghan should have chosen a different day or planned her company better so she could actually get this rosé out in end of May so people could have it all summer, June, July, and August. Yes, I know sometimes you don't really hit the true summer metrics or summer doesn't truly start until June 21st. Doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to get it out to people before the situation or before the anniversary. So for me, again, guys, I am flying by the seat of my pants most of the time, and I should be able to plan better, and I don't. But when it comes to, let's say, I did a video on looking at Catherine's Trooping the Color looks over the years. I think they got that video out like the day before in like late UK time, day before Trippy the Color. I should have gotten that video out the day before that. So it could run the full day before trooping. That's what I should have done. And I didn't do it. That is on me. But you can kind of see the problem there. And obviously this is all getting around to, of course, Diana as well, is Meghan made the decision to launch it, like not care about her husband at all, not care about how she died. Yes, of course, the paparazzi contributed, and if she might have lived if she had been wearing a seatbelt, but if she had been driving with a sober driver, she also might like that's the main factor here is a drunk driver. And so if she'd been driving with him, she'd still be alive. Or driving without him and with somebody else behind the wheel, she would still be alive. And Megan doesn't seem to care about that. Who knows? That guy might have gotten drunk off rosé or something. And yet she's selling rosé on her mother-in-law's birthday. It's just callous. It just goes to show what an unfeeling, unsympathetic person Megan is. Like, I cannot fathom Catherine doing the same thing on July 1st. Never in a million years would I see her do that. Now, what's sort of interesting is you can consider is that I don't think Megan likes Diana at all. Even though obviously they've never interacted before. I don't think Megan likes her. And I think Megan sort of despises her in some ways. Because Megan, number one, guys, wanted to be the next generation Diana. She came into the royal family, and Harry was constantly talking about how she's just like Diana. She's just like Diana. And number one, his family members all went, no, 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 no. She's nothing like Diana, buddy. But I think that inflated Megan's ego. And she's played the Diana handbook. Like when she was pregnant, oh, Harry, like it's all too much. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might do something terrible to myself. His mother actually did experience those things. I think Megan 100% faked those things. I think Megan was frustrated by the fact she couldn't control things, and that was Megan's issue. But she played this pregnancy mental health issue the same time in the pregnancy pretty much that Diana did. And so Megan is 100% playing off Harry's emotions here. But when we actually see Megan like interacting with Diana, she wants to be her and be better than her and be as beloved and everything as her. But that hasn't turned out for Megan. I think even more, Megan resents Diana because if you watch the Drew Barrymore clip when Drew Barrymore brings out this photo of herself and Diana and shows it to Diana, like Megan, it's like, and tells Megan how wonderful her mother-in-law is, Meghan Markle takes one gigantic step back. Like she tries to get she is so incredibly tense, Meghan Markle is, when Drew Barrymore is telling Megan what a wonderful human being her mother-in-law is. She takes a step back. She's like, it's like, get that Diana thing away from me because she can't stand Diana. I think Megan despises her mother-in-law for being more beloved than she is. And I don't think I've really heard anybody talk about that. And it's actually something that just came to mind. But I don't think Megan likes her at all. And so almost you could say this sharing the wine on and selling the wine on her mother-in-law's birthday is just another way to say how much Megan hates Diana. She wears Diana's jewelry, I think, and again, in order to inflame her own ego. That's why she wears it. She doesn't wear it because she really, let's say, likes it. She likes it because she goes, oh, I can wear the ring. But she, I think, hates Diana. I mean, and I've always been on the side of, Diana was a complicated person. So I think she would have some, it would be a challenge for her to see her sons marry and then have their own families in some ways because they're not, especially with William, because she was so close with William, probably not in sometimes a healthy way. That because like William was her best friend, she was telling him things as a young child that she probably shouldn't have been, and those sorts of things. So I think she would have absolutely loved Catherine, but it would have been a bit of a struggle for her to adjust to the change. I think she would have hated Megan, and Megan would have hated and actually does hate her. And I can't go into like, I don't know exactly because I'm kind of like almost spitballing here because it was an idea that came to mind to me. But I think Megan truly does not like her mother-in-law. I don't think she likes her. I don't think she respects her. And I think she sees especially Harry's obsession with her, and she kind of can't stand the fact that Harry is not as obsessed with Meghan in some ways. And so that is what I think. That is what I think. And Meghan so just wants to be Diana and was almost immediately told no. Almost immediately told no. And she resents her because she doesn't talk about Diana. She does not share pictures of Diana for Mother's Day. If you've noticed that, she's never shared a picture of Diana. Why wouldn't you share a picture of your mother-in-law with your husband on Mother's Day? That's a little weird. That's a little weird, especially one who died and stuff. And so I think Meghan, the lack of reference to Diana is indicative of a Meghan who kind of wants to shove Diana away and try to kind of put on her skin. And of course, it doesn't work. It does not work at all. And I think that's why we see obviously an unhealthy dynamic between Harry and Meghan, as well as Meghan once again supersede Diana and like be as beloved and wonderful and everything as she was. But of course, that's not Meghan's personality. And that's the thing, is that Meghan's, I think, one of her Achilles heel is that she's so wildly insecure, is that she wants to be somebody else all the time. And she can't, she's also self-absorbed. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there where she hates herself and she loves herself at the same time. But if she could just really be herself, like Diana was. Diana, for all her great attributes and flaws, was herself. And that's why people loved her. People connected to Diana because Diana like went through what so many other people went through. And Christina is so right here. You can't compete with the dead. Because what happens, and I kind of dislike this aspect somewhat because I feel like it's sacrilegious and it allows you to kind of gloss over people's flaws, is that Diana died young. And so she kind of became in a very tragic way. And so she became sanctified. Meghan can never compete with Diana because Meghan fundamentally cannot have that level of tragedy in her life. Meghan, unless something terrible happens, and I pray it doesn't. I don't like wish harm or things on anyone, including Harry and Meghan. But Meghan cannot compete with a woman who died tragically young and was immortalized as a young woman. And I think there's a different even perception between, let's say, Catherine and Diana, because Catherine does actually have sort of, you could argue, that Diana aspect of a young tragedy in some ways, getting diagnosed with cancer so young, having a major abdominal surgery. And I just realized we need to talk about the French state visit. Anyways, so Catherine had that, you could say, situation. And so Catherine actually, by not trying to at all, has now even assumed some of that young tragediness that marks sort of the legacy of Diana. And so because of that, Meghan probably hates Catherine even more than she did before, because Meghan cannot compete with that. I mean, she's excited that Catherine, had this terrible thing happen to her. I'm sure Meghan, in my personal opinion, was quite thrilled about that. But Catherine has kind of, by just having this experience happen to her, kind of has absorbed some of that tragedy that Diana experienced. And of course, obviously, Diana is much graver in her instance, but this sort of young tragedy aspect, kind of, people connect to that. People connect, I think, to Catherine in so many ways. If we want to talk about what Catherine shared this week and stuff about the roller coaster of cancer treatments and everything, is that Catherine has gone through something where she can now better, I think, connect with other people. And I think that's a really, really good thing. So Catherine has experienced cancer, and so has her children. It actually is going to make her children more empathetic. Now, this is kind of a different example, but they actually say for children whose sibling has Down syndrome, they end up being more empathetic as adults and as children and everything, because they have to grow up. Not they have to, but they grow up with somebody who has Down syndrome, and they get to experience different things And because of that, they have this more general empathy towards people. And I think that's going to happen a bit with Catherine and William's children, is that they've actually experienced some real hardship, and they see their mother continuing to go through it. And because of that, I think it'll make them stronger and more empathetic to the public in the future. And Harry could have had that, in some ways did, with Diana before, but now it's just because of how Meghan has treated everything, it just doesn't happen. And Catherine is actually assuming the legacy of Diana in the way that Meghan never could. And I think Meghan resents both of them immensely. They were going to be future queens. They're the Princess of Wales. She's just the Duchess of Sussex. I think Meghan has a huge resentment towards her mother-in-law. And so it actually should not be a surprise that she did launch her wine on that day. It's just, again, another way to give a middle finger to her mother-in-law, to be quite honest. That's just my personal opinion. Take it for what you will. I don't really know here or there, but that's just sort of the sense I get. And it kind of makes sense, because it does surprise me so much that Meghan never references Diana. She hardly ever. And when she walked back from, I should almost find it here, because it's so worthwhile reviewing again, because it was just so crazy. I'm like, what is she doing? She's like totally getting as far as humanly possible away from Drew Barrymore. And so I want to see if we can find the right clip here. I don't know if we can. Oh, it's clips of other people talking about it, but I think maybe. All right, here it is.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is so special. I mean, you had it
I mean,
here.
look at that. Look at that walk away. Look at that, guys. I mean, you can't see that much. So let's pull it up here. Look at that. Like, does that look like a woman who likes her mother-in-law? Even her dead mother-in-law. All Drew Barrymore is talking about is how much she admired Meghan's mother-in-law. And Meghan just cannot stand it. Cannot stand it. But let's listen.
Oh, I was
As like Meghan just doesn't like, it's just so, I think, despises Diana. Sorry. We had to go and watch that again. But yeah, she hated that bit. I was really surprised. Like, I was like, Meghan, you cannot fake this at all here. You cannot fake
lucky
this a little
enough
bit.
to. That's really special. It means so much.
And like the chasm between them here is kind of amazing. Anyways, so we won't like talk about it, watch it too much, but it was just really shocking that Meghan could not hide it for a single second how much she despises her mother-in-law. Or who's dead, who's not even here. So it's like really, really shocking. But yeah, I actually think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. I don't know. Like, this is why, guys, I like doing sometimes the live streams or talking to my mom or my friends or something, like kind of talking through things, because as you're talking through, it's like an idea comes to mind. And I had kind of considered this before, just because I had noticed that this kind of weird disconnect between Meghan and Diana in some ways, even though Meghan claims to have experienced so much of what Diana did. And Harry's whole thing is Meghan's going to experience just what happened to my mother. But at the same time, she doesn't care. Oh, I just realized you can't see anything. Thank goodness. But I left that door open. Whoops. Luckily, it's just a black space back there. Can't really see anything. Thank goodness. Anyways. So, Not perfect, just British says, "Do you think that will ever dawn on Meghan that she actually did some good? She would not feel inferior to Catherine William." You would think so. But Meghan tells us all the time how much good she does, but I guess she doesn't really even believe it either. So, it's very, very fascinating. But let's talk a little bit about Catherine and what she shared this week about kind of some of her experience battling and recovering from cancer. We do have this is why I love the actual royal reporters, they get the most interesting stuff. I wish I wish I could go and do the events that they get to do. So jealous sometimes. But let's see. I wanted to try to get the actual videos, some posted. Okay, so we'll grab Roya Nika, who is from the Times of London here, and we'll switch over to X and watch a bit of this, and then we'll talk very briefly about what I'm hoping for the French state visit that's coming later this week. I'm so glad it's this week and not next or the week after. So, treatment as well, because I think there's a lot of, you put on sort of brain-based stoicism through treatment. Treatment's done.
Yes.
I think I can't get back to normal again, but actually, that the phase afterwards is really, it's a really difficult. You're not necessarily in a clinical team. So I wanted to point out here, just noticing it watching this video, and it again reemphasizes sort of the tragedy aspect of even Catherine's story here, because all these people seem like that she's talking to, or at least the ones we can see, are much older than she is. There are other people who have experienced similar things who are younger as well, but I just found it rather interesting that Catherine is the youngest person, I think, in this group. Any longer, that you're not able to function normally at home as you once used to, and actually someone to help talk you through that, show you and guide you through that. So she's talking about the recovery process. I don't know how much you can hear because it's just really, again, not great audio because she doesn't have a mic on her, but it's just really, talking about the struggle with recovery and what that means. Yeah, the phase that comes after treatment, I think is really valuable and really underrated, especially to have a space like this here. Treatments and as you're saying, scanning and everything like that, actually to have a place like this that is for them, that is personalized in a way that patients do feel that this is special. So I just love, again, Catherine talking about this because she's had actually gone through something that I think can connect her with a lot of people. I think as she I think she's still recovering in some ways, still trying to process everything that happened. And I think that still does mean that she is kind of trying to find her footing in some ways, especially with being so public and yet also keeping a level of privacy. You're seen as a person rather than just a patient going through another set of treatments because that's the normal path in person medical route. I think it can be transformative in someone's recovery journey and also through supporting them through what's really difficult. Even without Benson also has a caring treatment. Is also taking a sort of more holistic approach to looking at the whole body and the whole person, in mind, body, and spirit, because now through so many. So she's talking about, of course, mind, body, and spirit and recovery and everything. So that is definitely a big process and a challenge to navigate. And then so she buried, or not buried, she planted some flowers named the Kate. Can't remember quite what the title is. But they're a Kate flower in honor of her, and so she planted some of those in the rain. I kind of liked how her hair, you could say fell because it was just a great example of her, not really caring that, oh, it's raining, oh, my hair's not gonna look perfect. So if there's a little bit more here. Well, and it bridges that gap. So I will be interesting to see how Catherine continues to kind of change in this role as she may, like, cancer treatments, cancer recovery may become a huge platform for her in the future.
It's a combination of everything. So the therapies that I received there, I've never tried it before, so it was all brand new. Everything helped the people. It's just a happy space. Because you spend so much time in hospital.
Yeah, and what is it particularly? Is it meeting people? Is it the treatment and receiving here?
It's a combination of everything. So.
And then out with the public.
So
And how did you hear about it? Because I'm just saying some patients don't know necessarily.
My husband had diagnosed in October and then said and literally did come out.
Okay. Oh, this one's a minute. So, oh, sorry, I hit the mic. So I don't think we can hear super, super well, but it's just great to see her out and about. And we do have confirmation, guys, that she will be welcoming the French president, Emmanuel Macron, and his wife, Brigitte, to Windsor Castle, I think, because they have changed the venues for the state visits while Buckingham Palace is continuing to go through its renovations. And so for right now, Windsor Castle will be the host. And so I'm glad we will see Catherine host this time. We did see her host in December of 2024 because I was there. So it's part of the hosting party with the Emir of Qatar. And so we will see Catherine do something similar here. And the big question, of course, is will she attend the state banquet? Because honestly, that is the thing I look forward to most when it comes to any sort of royal tour is the state banquet. It is the thing that makes me so happy. So I don't know. I mean, because we know that Catherine had obviously some very serious abdominal surgery. And the big question becomes like, what does that mean? Like, will we see her at events where she has to eat? Because maybe she has issues related to that now that she didn't before. And so, like, that would be kind of sad for me because I love state banquets. But like if she did attend, what tiara maybe could we see her wear? So last official tiara event we saw her at, she wore the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot, which is obviously the one Princess Diana wore. And then she also earlier in 2023, because that was the last time she wore a tiara, wore the Strathmore Rose, which was a delicate piece that had been long suspected to not be wearable. And then she went ahead and wore it, which was so exciting. Although I feel like it's more of a starter tiara. So I'm anxious to see maybe what tiara we could see her in for this next visit. And it might be fun here to kind of go through maybe what are some of the options, because I just pulled up here real quickly the court jeweler, and they have a whole, kind of tiara list based on households. Now we know some of these are not in contention. The aquamarine pine flower tiara is currently on exhibition with the Cartier. So I actually seen that a couple times recently. The ribbon tiara has been worn by the Duchess of Edinburgh, Queen Camilla, and Queen Elizabeth. So probably not that one. Belgian sapphire could be, but Queen Camilla has worn it, so I kind of doubt it. The Brazilian aquamarine, we have not seen yet, would be reserved for the Queen. Also should be dismantled and refashioned, in my personal opinion. We have Burmese ruby, probably not. Cartier bracelet bandeau, that would be a rare one. We have Cartier halo, which is not at the Cartier exhibition. That could be an interesting rewear. Oh, okay. So this is one that belongs to Camilla's family. Delhi Durbar tiara is on exhibition, so probably not that one. We're even thinking Camilla. The Belgian could be an option because it's blue and white, and you have red, white, and blue to reference the flag of France, and obviously the UK as well. Double meander bandeau, like interlocking diamonds. Oh, she's made some of these private, so you can't see them anymore. It will not be that one, George, the diamond bandeau. Girls of Great Britain and Ireland, also currently on display, guys. Grenville, worn by Queen Camilla, might be an option. The Grenville Kokoshnik could be an option for Catherine. So the British have always operated on a system that I am not always a fan of, which is that the you get the tiara you're given, and that's it, and that's all you wear. Whereas the other families share more. And so I'm hoping we see more sharing within the family, because I've always kind of despised the kind of idea that the British have of just like you only get what you get and that's it. Because then it makes tiara watching kind of boring. So Indian circlet, this is one made by Prince Albert. So it's actually the one with the rubies. Lotus flower has been worn by Catherine and the Duchess of Edinburgh. This tiara was dismantled, very sadly. Now, this is the one, I don't know if the page is active. I'm gonna have to go to the Wayback Machine. That one is the one that I'm really hoping is the Persian turquoise tiara. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really hoping that one might be resurrected. I really want it to be resurrected. Because the Persian turquoise to me is one I think would look gorgeous on Catherine. So here is the page in the Wayback Machine. And this is Princess Margaret wearing it. It was Princess Margaret who wore it for years. We have not seen anybody wear it since. And there is a colored picture of it that I've seen before, but obviously maybe Tiara Mania has it over here. Either way, I'm really hoping it's the Persian turquoise because, ladies and gents, it is a stunning piece and one I really hope is resurrected. So DLK says, does Catherine ask Camilla to wear any tiara? How does it work? It depends on the families. So it could be that, like, Catherine has access to the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot. That is like her exclusive one to wear. She has worn the lotus flower, but Duchess of Edinburgh has worn that one. So it's not maybe as exclusive to her. Although when Sophie wore it, it did have a dark base to it, a dark velvet base, which means it was there to match Catherine's hair instead of Sophie's. So that might have been a last minute change. And then we do also have another one, obviously Cartier. And I want to say and Strathmore Rose. Strathmore Rose might be a good one because it's light and stuff, but I'm really hoping the turquoise makes a comeback. Oh, there's a color picture. I'm really hoping, because this turquoise piece, as far as we're aware, has never come up for auction. It's a good size because it has a decent profile, but not too big either. And I think it looks particularly good with dark hair. Turquoise might be tricky, but I do like them. We don't have any confirmation Catherine will attend the state banquet. We do know that she will be with a welcoming reception, but beyond that, it's a bit of question. So Queen Adela's diamond fringe, we have not seen anybody wear that as a tiara, like mostly as a necklace. Alexandra's Kokoshnik, that would be reserved for Camilla. Now, what would be the fun one to see just for kicks and giggles is the Queen Mary's bandeau. Because that would drive Meghan Markle bonkers. I would not mind seeing that on Catherine's head or anybody else's head, to be quite honest. I want them to have more fun with the tiaras, not just say, oh, you only get one and that's it. I find that to be quite a boring piece. And because the fun with the Swedes is fun with the Dutch is that you never know what the ladies are going to show up in, because beyond a few couple, everybody shares. And so you could show up in a variety of pieces. Like we had Princess Madeline this year show up in the King Edward's tiara. I didn't even know that was an option because Crown Princess Victoria hasn't worn it. Like none of the next generation of royal ladies have worn it. And not even many of the King's sisters had. So I didn't even know it was an option for her. And then she shows up in it. That's what I love about the other families, is that it's very varied what they show up in. Whereas, I mean, the Norwegians are pretty much, they don't have many options. That's part of the problem. So kind of know what everybody's gonna wear. Spain has a decent collection. The Belgians don't have much. And so you're kind of limited on what we'll see with Queen Matilda. But the Dutch, the Swedes, and the British have huge collections. And so I want to see them wear them more and wear the like and not be so, oh, I can only wear this one because this is the one I was on. And again, to get back to somebody's question, like we don't know exactly how Camilla and Catherine decide who gets to wear what. We just know that they show up in particular things. So opinion says is it's claimed that Meghan's tiara wasn't real diamonds. That was in fact copied with moissanite substitution. There's a chance Meghan wasn't trusted. No, that is 100% false. People use that as an example and say, oh, because the pieces, the diamonds had like glittered and you could see rainbows in them, so they were fake. I've watched a lot of videos of tiaras, guys. You do see rainbows in the real ones too. Like I saw an example from the Belgians and stuff like that. So hers was real. To say anything else is completely false. Now, what did happen, I would 100% guarantee, is that the tiara went from the vault to Meghan's head to back to the vault. So she did not really have that tiara in her possession truly for any length of time, but also it was real. They did not change out the diamonds. If you say somebody says, oh, they glittered wrong, they're wrong. They all diamonds glitter. I think I caught, it would be with my bare eyes, caught rainbow patterns within reflected in the jewels when I was watching Queen Mary in her ruby bandeau. So other suggestions to the contrary are just completely false. Like they don't know, they don't actually watch tiaras. They don't look at the videos. I've looked at tons of videos. I see no difference between Meghan's pieces and others. I actually think Meghan's piece was probably maybe a bit better than the one Catherine chose, because Catherine's didn't glitter much, which was a little bit disappointing. You'll actually notice some videos, Diana's glittered quite a bit. The Spencer tiara glittered quite a bit. And what am I thinking? It glittered quite a bit. But Catherine's had more like the way the stones were cut. You can just tell, like if we go back up here, because there's a picture of it. Like look at, so these glitter a bit, but they're smaller stones and they just, I don't think have quite as many facets, and they're kind of, this is just kind of different compared to this one where the stones are a little bigger and the glitter would be a little better. Just saying. So I wouldn't mind seeing that one. So this is the one. I'm so bummed she took it all and she's like, I'm gonna put it all in. But I understand, because we all look at this stuff and try to find information. So the diamond longe tiara, which is over here, is this one, which we haven't seen since the Margaret days. And again, it would be lovely to see some of these pieces pop back up. It would just be lovely to see some of these pieces pop back up again. It's just been so long. Okay. And then the Wessex tiara she won't get. The Vladimir tiara Catherine would not get, which is this one. Ooh, the Tech hoop necklace tiara would be one I would be interested in seeing. And the Tech crescent would be one I would be very interested in seeing. So it was offered on a long-term loan to Camilla in 2005, but it would be one that I think Catherine would wear. Let's see. Oh, they do have this one. So this is, you can see it right here. It was displayed with the Strathmore rose. So it's a very interesting piece, and I would just be fascinated to see it again. It belonged to Queen Mary's mother. So I'd just be fascinated to see the piece again. I mean, look at those. Man, they just used to have a ton of jewelry back in the day. Oh, and this little bit right here, this is actually can be worn as a tiara, and one worn by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, as a tiara. So anyways, is it in the painting? Oh yeah, it's in the painting. It's right there. So that's must be King George V and Queen Mary, because that would be Mary of Teck right here. And there's Queen Victoria, I think that is. And then behind her, must be her elder son. Oh no, that so Queen Victoria, and then there's George V's father, George IV, or Edward VII. Sorry, I'm trying to remember my names of people. Oh, Lizzie B gifted one Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Lizzie. And Christina asks, is that in the tiara book? So it depends on which tiara book you get. There's a couple. I've actually been collecting more and more tiara books for quite a while. actually. And so I am trying to like really hoping to get like I really need to study the books a bit more and get my own information together, guys, because I have a plan. I've been working. Well, I got the idea like earlier this week. The problem, guys, always for me is I have a gazillion ideas in very little time. But there's something I've been thinking about, and it's like kind of um kind of internally debating and kind of formalizing, that's not a word, kind of formulating and those sorts of things. So there are a couple of TR books. The Queen's Jewels is honestly probably one of the better ones. Well, there's a couple. I think the Queen's Jewels maybe has more information, but it also has some sort of some think old information too. I'm sorry, I'm trying to the Queen's Jewels. So there's actually two you could say are kind of the big ones here. So is this the original one? Is that an older version? Okay, so now I'm gonna have to look at. Yeah, so these are probably the same book, just different publications. So I have this one. This was actually, guys, at my local library when I was a kid, and I actually worked at that library, and I did a paper based on the information about the Cullinan diamond from this book. So when I started my channel and everything, I ordered the book off Amazon. It's, obviously used. It was published in the 1980s. You have colored, I think you have mostly black and white pictures, to be quite honest, maybe some colored pictures. I can't quite remember. But this is like, even as a young, a teenager, this is a book I looked at. I actually took photocopies of the tiara. So that's why when Catherine and William were getting married, I was curious which one, because I had a bit of a background because of this book. This from Thrift Books. This is only $15. So if you want to check it out, you're welcome to look and find it. This looks to be the same book. It might be a newer edition, so I'd be interested in seeing if it has different information in it. And then the other option is the Queen's Diamonds. Now, well, I will say about the Queen's Diamonds, which I feel like is different than the Queen's Jewels, is that he was part of like the curator. So he has actually greater access to information about the royal collection. But when it comes to like showing variety, it's a little limited. What we do is what he does in this book is that each chapter focuses on one of the queens. So we start with Victoria and go to Queen Elizabeth, and he showcases the various jewels that they added to the collection that are mainly focused on diamonds, whereas the Queen's Jewels covers turquoises and emeralds and pearls and different things. But what the Queen's Diamonds has, and it's much more expensive. It's more of a coffee table book, $125, I'm sure new. Oh, this one's signed. Oh, that's cool. So this is an expensive book, definitely. But the pictures are spectacular. So he had actual access to the jewels, and he got spectacular pictures of them. One of the things I would love to kind of, and there's a camera lens I want, and it's gotten more expensive with the tariffs, which really sucks, that I really want to get, is a gorgeous, there's a particular lens I want that I think would take really good tiara pictures. So it had amazing lighting, got amazing pictures, but those are kind of, you can obviously see these are, that's pretty cheap. I do have this book. I don't know how decent it is. So this is another version of the Leslie Field book. So most of these are the same. So anyways, Queen's Jewels first edition. What is this one? Sorry, I'm like on the hunt, guys, always for new books. Ooh, I haven't seen this one. I might get this one. Anyways, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope that helped. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Catherine might be wearing in the future, because I'm really hoping for new tiaras. All right, so Tracy McPherson, thank you so much for the super chat from down under in Australia. Says, my dearest sister is going through chemo right now with radiation to follow. I repeat comments made by the Princess of Wales, and I believe they help. Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm wishing and praying for the best for your sister as she goes through chemo. I know that's a really tough journey and challenging to get through, but praying that, she stays strong and it's an opportunity as well. I feel like when you're going through cancer to focus on the things that really matter and kind of get rid of the noise. I feel like that's what Catherine and William have done in so many ways is that they've gotten rid of the noise in their life. I think Harry and Meghan are part of that and are just focusing on family. So I think that's the way to go. So I'm hoping she does well and radiation goes well and all the treatments and that she is able to, resume as she kind of recovers and kind of gets her strength back, resumes, her normal activities or, amended activities and just can again be with family and friends. So praying for all the best for your sister Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing. So P Pacific says, I had the pleasure and honor of meeting Princess Diana when she was wearing the Cambridge Lover's Knot. So I always must vote for Catherine to wear that one. Memories. Oh, that is cool. I have to admit, I'm very jealous there. That's very cool. It is wild to watch and see somebody wear a tiara. It is a wild thing. I saw it in Denmark for the first time and hoping to see so much more as you could say time goes on. And growing that aspect because I got hopefully fingers crossed again if you remember as you saw the video a really exciting book coming that somehow I managed to snag for $10 and I don't know how I did that. From a thrift store in Georgia. My only thought was I didn't know what they had and I somehow caught it and I was very excited. But yeah, I'm looking for I had the tiara book from Jeffrey Munn. I actually purchased that from the Cartier exhibition. I have a variety. I have books. I have a couple of books I got from Denmark when I was at the Rosenborg Castle. So I have been collecting a lot of tiara books and information that I hope to share at later dates because I'm working towards something because yes, the Harry and Meghan stuff is fun to discuss at times, but there's only so much. So I am trying to venture out and do other things as we can. And so we are trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. But guys, thank you so much for all your support here. It means so much to me and my little Miss P. And so I'm just so glad to be able to do more because yeah, Creative Chaosify says please do more to share about tiaras. I plan to. There's so much going on. Oh yeah. Lynn says you need to shop my books. I need to see. I haven't tried that yet. That's a great thought, Lynn. Thank you. I haven't even thought about that because I wouldn't mind sharing like what books you guys can get access to if you want to. And some of them are like limited edition prints. And so when I found the Jeffrey Munn book, guys, I could see that I've seen that book for sale on First Dibs for like $450. And another book I want was $1,800. Now I've seen it cheaper elsewhere. I plan to get it cheaper, but there's a lot of books out there, a lot of resources, but you have to track them down. They're hard to find, especially when you're getting into foreign language books. That's when it gets super complicated. But Water says, make your own books. That might be definitely in the future, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful, fabulous weekend. I hope all our American friends out there, obviously I'm an American as well, had a fantastic 4th of July weekend. Liz E said, yes, more tiara talk about and other royals. Yes, we'll be doing more of that. Have other things to add too. So guys, thank you again so much for sticking with me and we shall talk to you again very, very soon here. Bye. I forgot to